All right, damn it. We're back, and we're going to go over the results of the other washes and then look into the oils. Okay, so what we have here is we have the wash that we did here, and this is what the paint, if you remember. As you can see, it's really not all that great. It's got some issues with kind of meeting the mark. It's pretty light. Even in the darkest recesses, it's not really there. In fact, it's a little difficult to see, but right here on the outskirts, um, it's actually more shaded on a flat part than it is anything else. So again, I don't like that very much. Here is the Games Workshop on this side right here, and this was the Agrax Earthshade, and then on top of that was the, you can get pretty close. I know this thing focuses that close. It's supposed to focus that close. Maybe I'm not 7 centimeters away. There you go. There's another look at the wash on your right hand side on the red part of the tunic, and then you have here the Games Workshop. You have Agrax Earthshade followed by Seraphim Sepia, and then here on the outer panel, this portion here, this was the wash by Vallejo, and probably hard to see, but it's definitely not as matte. It's got a definite sheen to it. And I did dry this somewhat standing up so you could see how a lot of it's pulled here into the bottom. And then lastly, and I didn't paint this all the way around, but you could see here on the back, maybe you could see here on the back, I have a little piece of black paper here that I have for just such occasions. Excuse my arm. Now, as I was saying, you should be able to see here what that wash did. And again, it's a little more shiny, but I think it did just about, again, it was red, so it stayed with the tone red, and it's really got some pretty nice filling in there, and it starts black. Then as the black gets thinner and thinner and thinner on the wash, it actually kind of converts to red. And that's a really nice effect, and you don't have to do a heck of a lot of cleanup for that. In fact, if I was doing that, I would just highlight the raised parts. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and go in with the oils. Now, I still have the oils I'm working on over here, and I've mixed them up. And make sure that you continue to mix them up after you think you've mixed them up, because I know that makes more sense than you could possibly imagine. But what happens is that they will separate. The mineral spirits will separate, okay? So how do you know when your oil's too thick? The oil's too thick when you come in, and I'll do it up here, when you go like this, and see how it kind of coats, and it's more like a paint than anything. I would say that's still on the thick side. We're going to add one more drop of mineral spirits, and we're going to go ahead and go in and do some precision type of washes right after I pop the top off that and splash mineral spirits in my eyes and by myself, but it feels good. It's okay. So get those all mixed up. Very hard to see in here. I mean, I could do this and everybody can see, oh, look at, it's a black blurry thing. It's actually blackish brown. But when you pull it up onto the sides, again, that's almost impossible to see, but you want the kind of consistency of oil. That's the stupidest thing I've said in about 2 weeks. But seriously, it should be about the consistency of motor oil. You really got to thin it down. All right, so how do you use this? Well, you load up your brush. I'm going to try and do this as close as I can. And all you're going to do is you're going to touch it in the spots that you want. And to tell you the truth, this right here, believe it or not, is still too thick because it did not flow into the spaces. I'm going to have 3 more drops of mineral spirits because, hey, when something doesn't work the first time, brute force is always a really good option after that. By the way, you're going to want another one of those little thimble cups or another little base hanging around. Here's uh, basin, hanging around. You want to put a few more drops of your mineral spirits in there, maybe 3 or 4, something like that. You don't need a whole lot, but just some, because you got to clean off your brush afterward. And you also need it for when you're doing the cleanup itself. So you can see I've kind of made a mess right there, and it's kind of splotched all over the place. Yeah, not so good. Because it's still wet, I can come in here with a rag, even though it's off camera. Trust me, it's a rag, and I can wipe it off. Fantastic. You can't really do that with other washes, by the way. I know that sounds stupid, but you can't. Try this again. Pick it up a little bit on my brush. This brush isn't very sharp, so when I touch it to certain places, it starts to flow into the areas. Now this is still kind of getting a little splotchy there, but you know what? That's okay, and I'm going to show you why. Other spaces, you'll see that it actually sticks instead of going all over the place. When I'm able to get my brush a little bit sharper, it actually goes just in the recesses. You can do here on the bottom like this, kind of a blanket that way, where I just kind of make a big mess. It needs to go wherever. You can also again, just barely touch it. And the capillary action, if you could see that, has it flow against, well, here's the capillary, so it goes to the paths of least resistance. And you can actually kind of comb it down and up to get the effect that you want. Again, this was brown and black together. What this especially works well on is that if you had, say, a red, you could really do the recesses something like this. This is a rat ogre. Put in here, and it would really flow in and just go all over the place and flow all over those little channels that are created here. So the deeper the recess, the better oils are going to work through. I won't belabor this and do this. It'll be a different tutorial. But anyway, so there we go. Now, oils do take a while to dry, and I'm going to have to cut out and then come back because they are going to dry. But before we do, and while this is drying in front of my fan over here, when you're done, these oils are, I'm not going to wash a whole bunch more with these. So you basically just throw this away. That's why you want to make only a very little bit at a time, otherwise it's kind of a waste. Oil paints are expensive. They run about $7 to $15 a tube, and there's not a lot of choices when it comes to the size of the tube. There's really big and there's really damn small. Get the really big, because the really big is, as far as what we do, is the same quality as the really small. The really small is probably better if you're a, what's his name, that Ross guy. Anyway, painting happy trees. The little one's probably a heck of a lot better, but for our purposes, just get the big one because it works just as well for our purposes. But once you're done, it goes in the garbage. Just like that. You can keep the other ones around. You want to go ahead and wash off your brush. And it's kind of interesting when you wash off your brush, like, it doesn't get dirty. It's like magic, right? And your brush is now clean. There we go. Wipe it on a towel again here off camera, and make sure I still got the orange ring around it, so I can remember what, not remember what it's for. Now this again is going to take a while to dry. However, just for the sake of time, once you're done and it does dry, you're going to grab yourself a Q-tip. Okay, you can see here it's kind of messy, but these right here, they're not water stains like the other washes leave. They're splotches of paint. The way that we fix that is we're going to come in with a little bit of mineral spirits on the tip of our brush, and you're going to ever so slightly brush your surface. Okay, the more you let it dry, the easier you'll have at this. The wetter it is, the more of a danger you have of getting the bud down into there and actually wiping away some of the paint in the recesses. Also, the longer you let it dry, the better too. Now, this has only been a few seconds after here, so this is not going to be perfect here, but as you can see, you get to clean it off. And that's worked rather well. For the other spots around here, where it's kind of looks like a mess, you can go side to side, almost like you're over brushing or dry brushing. And this really tears up the Q-tip as you do it. Don't go with the grain like this, because if you go like this with the grain, essentially what you can do is you can get down into most of those recesses, as I had right here, and you're just going to wipe it out. So go parallel too. And again, the amount of pressure and the amount of mineral spirits on here is going to determine how much you take off. I'm going to get this a little tiny bit wet again, so I can. And again, it's not a function of how hard you press, it's a function of how many times you swipe. And that gets it more and more clean. Now here on the tip, because I didn't let it dry very much, or on this flat surface, I've actually drawn some of the oil colors out of the recesses. Again, you really need to let it dry all the way. After you let it dry, by the way, you have to varnish this, because oils never really truly dry. They never totally evaporate. So if you don't let them set all the way and then go in and use your Q-tip to clean up and then varnish, anything can mess with it, including other acrylic paints. Okay, so just be advised to make sure that you take the time to varnish after you're done. Again, I have found that a gloss varnish does a much better job than a matte varnish or a satin varnish. Now, just to show you real quick, here on the top we have the same thing. This was just the messiness that I did, and you can see, as a contrast, you can see that it comes off fairly easily. Likewise, I have normal acrylic paint over here, and if I go back and forth a few times, it's going to rub that acrylic paint off as well. This is 100% dry, so it's not going to give up very easily. But you can also use mineral spirits to clean acrylic washes as well. And again, if it's dry all the way, it's not so bad. You can see it right there on the. See that? Wipe that paint right off, and that wasn't even any pressure whatsoever. You've got to be very, very careful if you think you're going to do that. But it does actually clean up acrylics, not so bad. But is the reward really worth the risk? I guess you're going to have to mess with that. I guarantee the reward's never worth the risk when you do washes, which one of the last steps that you do, and you ruin your whole entire model, and you're like, oh, son of a... And you got to start over, or you just kind of suck up and go, well, I don't like the model anyway. Anyway, there we go. That's your quick tutorial on doing a wash. Pretty Spartan, pretty basic. Again, I'm just trying to do the concept. I will probably do another one with a full piece already made out. Maybe this nice little horse here. Do the washes on him and a fully painted model instead of this, because it's obviously a little difficult to see. But again, remember the concept, remember how it was employed, and it will actually serve you pretty well. Washes are a basic painting technique that you're going to need for almost any miniature that you do. Can you get away without doing washes? Yes, but when you do washes, it will look much better. Thanks a lot, guys. Hope this is somewhat helpful. And if it's not, hey, that's fantastic.